Hi guys, thanks for joining us today. We are with Miss Karla, our RD from our Costa Rica program. So we're going to learn all about all the semesters that our Costa Rica program offers, and we're going to hear it all from the horse's mouth today. So welcome, Karla. Thanks for being with us. Happy to have you.
Thank you, Jackie. Hello, Jackie, and hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me here.
Of course, our pleasure. So if you can just kick us off with the question of the hour, right? Who are you? Can you tell us a little bit about your history with AIFS, longevity there, and what your role is as a resident director in specifically Costa Rica?
Sure. Well, first up, a little bit about myself. I started my own study abroad journey at the age of 16 when I went to France. Well, there I learned about the host families and living with them and the importance of having a very well-organized program that will understand my culture shock difficulties, learning needs, and encourages also safe exploring. Nowadays, I'm a board-certified psychologist and a higher education administrator, and I have been in the education field now for 20 years, and 13 have been specifically for a study abroad, and I have been working with AIFS for the past 5 years.
Excellent. Yeah. So if anything, guys, sounds like Karla, with all of those qualifications, all of the experiences, Karla is a guru. She is an expert. She is a well-intended part of our program. So awesome. We love having her. You said this already. So you studied abroad yourself, and you mentioned that big word, big C word, culture shock, right? Not only do you have culture shock when you go abroad, but the reverse culture shock, right? So that's part of, the RD's duty as well, is just to kind of help the students once they have repatriated. So we'll get into that in a little bit later, but I just thought that was kind of super important to highlight that, yes, when you study abroad yourself, you kind of experience both ends. Costa Rica is your home, so it goes without saying you're probably very proud to be from Costa Rica, what have you. But can you tell us, in terms of the program, why students should choose to study specifically in Costa Rica?
Well, Costa Rica offers many things. As a very small country, we only have, I always say we're very exclusive. There are only 5.5 million Costa Ricans in this world. Can you imagine? Yes. So we are a very small country. Yesterday, actually, we celebrated for the first time the abolishment of the army. So that is a very important thing, right? We abolished it in December 1st, 1948. So that means that since then, we have been investing, instead of an army, we have been investing in education, in health, many other issues that are very important. So I think that it's very interesting to see Costa Rica also from that side. And also another important thing is that in a very small territory, we represent a little over the 5% of the world's biodiversity. So it is very rich, not only in culture, education, health, but also in nature. So it makes it very rich for any type of profession or career that students want to develop themselves here.
Absolutely. So it kind of sounds like you picture Costa Rica, and it might be for like the outdoorsman or the outdoorswoman, right? And then it's also kind of for like the history buff, because you have all of this like culture and history, and like you said, like the abolishment of the Costa Rican army, what have you. So it's not just for people who love the outdoors, or San Jose is like a pretty much a metropolis like city, so you have like your best of both worlds there, but also just the history.
Exactly. Yes, it's very small, so you can actually go, for example, San Jose is right in the middle of the country, so you can actually go in just 6 hours from the Pacific Ocean to the Caribbean one. To the Caribbean Sea, to the Caribbean coast. So
weekend trip, perfect. Yes,
exactly.
And, with that, so there's all these historical facts, things we can find on the internet, things we can students can study about Costa Rica before they arrive, before they choose that program, things that we at AIFS can prepare them for. But are there any like fun facts about Costa Rica or San Jose in general, things that might just be like inside to like the locals, what have you, things that we probably wouldn't be aware of, fun facts, things like that?
Well, there's a very interesting public school in the center of San Jose downtown. And I think this one is a fun fact, because it turned out that it was a present from Europe to Punta Arenas in South America. but we have a province here in the Pacific called Punta Arenas, just one word. So it turned out the ship went wrong, and the ship sent the school to Punta Arenas, Costa Rica, instead of South America. And well, we kept it. Thank you. It's a beautiful school made of metal, and they just put it into pieces like a Lego. It has numbers and all. Yes, to put it together, like the Statue of Liberty, something like that.
Very
right? To put
cool.
it together into pieces.
It's still there today.
Yes, it's still there today, and it is being used.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, I don't think that's something that we would know to Google about Costa Rica. Obviously, like, students have the ability to learn the language while they are in the program, and we'll talk about courses in just a minute. But are there any slangs or phrases that you find Costa Ricans use often that we might not be privy to, that students would find of use when they're on their program?
Well, learning Spanish in Latin America is very interesting, because even though we all speak Spanish, we all have different words and slangs. So sometimes we also have to be careful when we're talking to other Latin Americans, because we might use one word and it has a very total different meaning in their country, right? So we have to be careful there, because you never know. Well, yes, of course, we have some Costa Rican phrases. I think the most important motto of Costa Rica is the phrase pura vida, which literally means pure life. But pura vida is basically a lifestyle. I just love it because we can have a full conversation just using that phrase. So we just go, instead of saying, hey, hi, we say, hola, pura vida. And then the reply is, yeah, pura vida.
Would you say that to somebody that you're passing on the street, or somebody that you're more in close contact with and have a relationship with already?
No, it can be a total stranger, because we can also use it as thank you.
Yeah.
Or you're welcome. So if someone tells you gracias, you could just say pura vida, right? And that means you're welcome.
Yeah. And you're kind of like also like wishing the person well in their life, even though you don't know them. It's kind of like a collectivist thing, right? Like, it's not like this every man for himself society. It's kind of like, oh, I don't know you, but have a good day, you know? Like,
exactly. And it has become also a lifestyle in Costa Rica. It's kind of a slow. So I think that it helps a student to teach them to slow down a little bit, one day at a time. We're going little by little, and not to feel so anxious about many things. Right. So it's funny, because at the same time, the pura vida lifestyle that gives you some time to relax, chill, live your life, right? Enjoy it. So sometimes the students are like, okay, wait, this is too much. Yeah. It's too slow. But then they make it for themselves, and they learn how to live with that, right? And to enjoy their days more.
Like, we're not in this rushed pace of let's go, and we're not getting anywhere fast. It seems like we do have that mentality as Americans, where we're like, time is money, money is time. We need to move faster, do things faster, and you go somewhere else and kind of like, hey, just relax. It'll all fall into place. Do you see that transition in students often, where they first arrive and they're kind of in that fast-paced, like, rabbit mode, and then like by the end of the program, they're like, relax?
Yes, of course. Yeah. I think students learn a lot from that, especially for their courses and all the activities that we have prepared, because we have the newsletters and all the information that we provide them. But sometimes there are a few that I always tell them, I'm going to hire you at the end of the program. It's like, Karla, is everything ready? Is everything prepared? Do we have the reservations? Like, yeah, sure. Right. But it's that American way of being that everything has to go super fast, right? And we just go and tell them, okay, let's enjoy the program. Let's enjoy it from your side, and just relax and wait for the time to go ahead and do that, right?
All of the alumni ambassadors that we've interviewed, and the ones that we talk to when they return from their programs, and even just AIFS alumni in general, especially students that studied abroad during the pandemic, or when the pandemic was beginning, the ones that we've repatriated home for spring 2020, that's one thing they collectively say, is this essence of time and how we live our life at a different pace now has really shifted, because we don't know how much time we're given. We don't know if our study abroad program is going to end tomorrow, or, you know, what's to be. Yeah, that essence of time has definitely shifted, especially students that were a part of that semester have definitely taken a step back and been like, okay, yeah, I need to slow down a little bit and enjoy life, smell the roses.
Something important that you mentioned there about the different sense of time nowadays, right? With these past students that we had this spring that we had to send back home. Something very important that they told me when this all was happening is that sometimes they would postpone some activities or weekend excursions, weekend trips, because they would have more time. And then they didn't have the time, right?
Yeah.
So I think something very important is to learn from this and do things when we can, instead of keep postponing things, because sometimes time is going to be gone.
Right. We never know. If this year has taught any of us, and this is like a global, realization, hopefully, it's like you just don't know. So enjoy that moment while you're in it and make the most of it. Pura vida, right?
Exactly.
And use that in every capacity now. Awesome. So you mentioned a little bit about courses. Can you tell me a little bit about the academic programs? Is there, something that's more language and culture based versus specific concentrations? Are there specific concentrations that you do get a surplus of students for? So can you just tell us a little bit about what that academic lineup looks like?
Well, for this spring, we are going to have the 12-week semester program, right? For all the programs, semester or the summer programs, we always include Spanish courses. It could be just one or two, depending on the student interest. But I think that it's important to develop some language skills. And the host families are going to provide a lot of those Spanish language skills, right? But also we have electives. Many electives the students can choose from environmental sciences, which I think that is pretty cool because they get to go on weekend field trips for the whole weekend to different regions. The students discover different rural communities on the coasts. They go snorkeling. They go on night tours, for example, to see the bioluminescence in the ocean.
Kayaking.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, there are many opportunities. We also have social sciences like social work, psychology, health sciences. That's very rich too, because, well, in the healthcare system that we have, it's a socialized healthcare system. So that means that everyone has access in the country to that. So it's a very interesting and different way of working, right, from the States, which basically the healthcare system is private.
Yeah, they definitely two different ends of the spectrum, but it's kind of cool for students to learn about, how is healthcare handled.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we also have courses in politics and economics, sustainability, diversity. For example, it brings a lot of rich discussions in class and debate, right, about human rights and different ways of things happening, especially nowadays, right, in politics, when there are so many concepts and so many interpretations of the different ideas and ways of thinking, right?
Definitely opens the mind when you get to see how things are done in a different country, and it makes you a little bit more aware of your own personal, choices, political or non-political. Very good. Excellent. So there's a little bit of everything for everybody, but valuable to any concentration, any major that a student is studying, they'll have that Spanish course available to them to kind of help them ease into, living in a predominantly Spanish-speaking country. Is there a lot of opportunity for volunteering in Costa Rica if a student is interested in something along those lines? Sure.
We have different type of volunteering opportunities. For example, in health sciences, students can go to the children's hospitals and other sites that offer nursing, physical therapy, medicine, mental health. This includes occupational therapy, for example, social work and psychology. These two last fields, social work and psychology, I think they're great fields to gain experience in Costa Rica, to have a better understanding of the always growing Latino population in the US, right? I always tell my students, those with these skills, right? Understanding of the Latino culture, Spanish, they're gold mines in the US, basically. And students can also participate in different organizations that work with high-risk populations, such as human trafficking and AIDS, HIV. Yeah. In education, for example, students can be placed in public or private schools, wherever they feel more comfortable, right? Mm-hmm. They can develop skills in ESL or other relevant projects to the schools that have for the volunteers, including recycling or arts, painting murals, for example. And then, in San Jose, the volunteering opportunities related to environmental issues are more limited because we are in the city. But however, we have a volunteering in a local zoo and a butterfly farm where students can interact with the animals, right? There's a little bit of something for everybody, which is great. And one of the things that I really find valuable for our students is you're not just volunteering and you're not building a relationship with these people. These are like somewhat marginalized communities, or these are industries where, you're working in a hospital or a clinic or a school. Like, these are everyday places where
locals live their daily lives. So it's not just a, once and done kind of thing. It's this exposure to, what are the needs of a country? How do I fill those in? How do locals, contribute to their own communities and allowing the students to be a part of that. So it's big stuff. Rarely have students that turn away from those opportunities, which is really great.
I think that something important here is that when we volunteer, it's important to understand that is the life of the volunteer the one that changes, right? Our own lives, our perspective, everything changes, right? The way we see the world, it's going to change definitely. I even like, right, the opportunities that students can gain through volunteering. For example, during a summer, it was a summer program. So sometimes the students say like, no, it's a summer program, it's very short, perhaps I won't volunteer. But I had this student who volunteered in physical therapy here. And while she was still here in Costa Rica volunteering in physical therapy, she applied for a job in California and she got the job just for this volunteering experience here in Costa Rica. So I think it's very rich. It's amazing what the students can achieve, right? Through these experiences. It's definitely
unlimited what you can do thereafter. And we were speaking to a student who did, a shorter like summer J-term program, in another country. And he was like, I never would have thought that it would be such a resume builder, even if I did a summer program because of the longevity. And it's like, if anything, it shows that you can adapt in a very quick amount of time. You've taken every opportunity that you've gotten, whether that's a class or an opportunity to volunteer, whatever that looks like for that student. There's so much that you could put on a resume in any length of a program. And the volunteering definitely kind of puts you over the edge because you've taken time out of your schoolwork and your travels and all of these leisurely things to, again, serve that local community that you're studying in. So we really encourage them to do that. And basically, with these volunteer opportunities and academic programs in general, a student can come with, no language experience. Is that correct?
That is correct, Jackie. Students do not need any Spanish previous knowledge to come to Costa Rica, right? Because first of all, if they have no previous Spanish, so in the Spanish course, they will be placed in basic one, right? Where they can start. The host family, nowadays, I think at least one person in the household will speak Spanish. English, right? So, but even though they don't, the host moms are amazing, right? Doing charades and communicating with the students in Spanish. So that shouldn't be an issue. It's just a challenge. It can be a fun challenge, right? Very entertaining to face. So there's no Spanish required. All the electives are taught in English. There are some electives that are taught in Spanish, but those are for more advanced students in Spanish. Yes, and in the volunteering placements, depending on the student level, so we will find a better placement for them, right? Also thinking on their Spanish skills.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're not going to leave not having learned anything, which is probably the most important part, right? Is just the cultural exchange and the exchange of language. I like what you said about the host moms and maybe host moms. But the charades, right? Because that's like what we rely on is our body language. We don't know how to verbalize what we need or what we'll do. Housing for Costa Rica. If you can kind of walk us through what that looks like. I know with host families, you guys have, a longevity of relationships with these families. Some of them host year to year, semester to semester. Well-loved, members of that AIFS family. So can you tell us a little bit about what the housing is?
Well, in Costa Rica, this is interesting because we don't have residencies or something like that in the universities, right? Because again, the country is so small, right, that everyone lives at home. We don't need to go and move to our school to have classes. So we just live at home and then you go to school. So we only have option in housing with Costa Rican host families. Well, I think that living with a family is a phenomenal cultural experience and it will immerse our students in the language and inside the culture. And every time a Costa Rican student, right, a college student would listen that, they just become very excited to know that these American students are living with families. So they are getting the real culture and how it is to be a Costa Rican on a daily basis. Well, Costa Rican families nowadays are very varied. Sometimes we find the typical family as we have known it, like forever, mom, dad, kids, and the pet, right? But sometimes we also have single moms, single parents, right? Living, or sometimes couples that their kids are already grown up and they left home. So now they have an empty nest and they want to continue being parents, right? And they are there for our students. The housing and the idea is that always the students are becoming a family member, right? So they are going to be taken into account for the family activities, the family parties, going the get-togethers, right? And as for the housing services, the students will always have their own single private bathroom, right? They are not going to share a bedroom. The bathroom can be shared. The bathroom can be shared with another student or even with the family. They will have a laundry service once a week. Sometimes, depending on the family is, I always tell the students, sometimes the host moms, you're throwing your dirty clothes into the hamper and they just catch it in the air and put it into the laundry, right?
They don't even they don't give you the option of not having laundry.
Yes.
Very cool.
Yes. But officially laundry service is once a week. And of course, we have Wi-Fi, right? Because, this generation's motto is not even, do you have Wi-Fi? The question is now, what's the Wi-Fi password? Because now everyone assumes that there's going to be Wi-Fi, right? Of course, we have Wi-Fi in the host families, the office, the school, everywhere, right? Sometimes even in the public areas like parks. For the food, the students are going to have breakfast and dinner every day in their homestay, right? And the school also, in order to ensure safety, 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦 University offers a shuttle that will bring, it's like a school bus that will bring the students back and forth from the homestay areas to the school.
Excellent. So everything that you could possibly want, you have, someone who cooks 2 meals a day for you, including weekends or just weekdays for the meals?
Including weekends. Every time there's
you have your own bedroom, so you have a place to study, to relax, kind of your own little sanctuary outside of the communal living spaces. You have laundry service once a week. That'll be kind of a rude awakening when you return to your home campus and you're like, why is my basket still full? You have transportation to and from the university, so the commute is nice and easy. And then you just have that, you're an integral part of the family. You're included in someone's home life. So it's a really beautiful thing.
Yes.
Now, do you typically have 2 students in the same homestay? Does it ever work out that way, or typically 1 student per each homestay? Or
it actually depends on the needs of the students, right? Because the families also have a profile. So sometimes some families, for example, won't accept vegans because it's a very difficult diet. And in Costa Rica, veganism is increasing, is not as popular, right? So we also have to look at the student profiles, at the family profiles, to try to put them together and make a perfect match, right? Basically, because they're going to be together from 2 weeks or up to 4 months. Yeah. So we have to make sure they feel comfortable and they are fine, right? And also the students that are going to be placed together. So there are important things to look at the family profile and the student profile to make those matches. Sometimes students ask in the housing application form that they want to be placed with another AIFS students. So we try to make our best and to put them together. Sometimes they even ask, let's say that we go together, so I can say can I be placed with Jackie? But Jackie might say, no, I want to be placed by myself.
Right.
So we always look, I think that it's important that the students always put all this information in the housing application form. So we know if they want to be by themselves or if they want to be placed together. I think that it depends on that too.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, very, very thorough. We want it to be a match made in heaven for both the host family and the student, again, because these housing options, right, whether it's homestay, student residence that we offer in other programs, not Costa Rica, whatever that living situation is going to be, it is your safe space for that time. It's your home, it's your sanctuary. So we want you to be as comfortable as possible. But I have heard nothing but good things and then some about our host families in Costa Rica. Like you said, these moms, they treat you like that you are their child, for those.
Yes, I have to say, they just love to spoil the students. And then would make delicious breakfast and dinners and things. Yes, it's like having grandchildren, I think.
Yeah.
They just want them to be fine and to eat and keep eating, right? Yeah. Especially in this Latino culture that food is very much related to love, right?
Yes. Oh, I love that. What are some of the meals and like different types of food that a student might experience in a homestay? I'm sure there's like a favorite amongst the students.
Well, Costa Rican people love rice and beans,
Yes.
right? White rice and black beans. That's in every single house in Costa Rica for lunch. Lunch is the most important meal here, right? Sometimes students, of course, tell me, Karla, I cannot eat more rice and beans, right? But in Costa Rica, if you don't have it, like seriously, sometimes people in the house say like, you can have chicken, salad, vegetables and all, but if you don't have rice and beans, a Costa Rican feels that is not a complete meal. You're missing something, right? And that is for lunch, our most important meal. And then sometimes we make extra so we can have some leftovers on purpose. So the morning after, we put together, we mix the beans and the rice, and we make 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦. 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦 is a combination of rice, beans, and we add some spices like onion, cilantro, chile dulce, and the very famous salsa inglesa, which is something like Worcestershire sauce. Yes. That's a typical food. And for lunch, well, we call it casado when they're separate. When the rice and beans are separate with the salad, the picadillo, the vegetable picadilly, and some other things, we call it casado. For breakfast is when they're together, 𝗟𝗘𝗧𝗦.
𝗟𝗘𝗧𝗦.
Yes. 𝗟𝗘𝗧𝗦, yes. And we like to eat some, well, always fresh fruit. For example, we have delicious fresh fruit. That's some of the things that I miss the most when I'm traveling, when I'm abroad. It's like, I need my tropical fruit, for God's sake.
Yeah. Like, what are some of those fresh fruits that students, plantains? I'm guessing.
Yes, we have bananas, plantains, watermelon. We have a wide variety of fruits, actually. Sometimes when we go to the market, we like to introduce to our students to the different fruits that for example, one of my favorites and that I like to introduce to our students is 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗓. I think it's one of the funniest words. 𝗦𝗢𝗓.
𝗦𝗢𝗓. Now, what is a guava? Like in the guava family or something completely different?
It's a big thing like this. Okay. It's green in the outside. It has a very thin peel outside, and it is very meaty. It's white. And you can eat it fresh, you can do it in juice, you can do it in ice cream, you can mix it with everything. And the students ask me, how do you say 𝗦𝗢𝗓 in English? And I go, soursop. I was like, what is that? Right? Because it's not even common in English, right? So 𝗦𝗢𝗓s, we have jocotes, we have mamonchino, that is rambutan. We call it mamonchino. Yes, we have guava, pero guava is not the same as guava in English.
Very different.
Guava is like a long string bean, something like that you have to break it against your knee because it's very hard. And then you eat the little seeds that are inside.
A lot of these fruits and foods that you're naming and mentioning, we don't have in the US. So I imagine one of the things that I always kind of struggle with when I'm done living in another country or repatriating home from a travel is the lack of these foods that we have, right? Because it just looks so different on this end. So I imagine you have a lot of students that have withdrawal from Costa Rican cuisine, I am sure. So can you tell us a little bit about what that orientation will look like when students do arrive for the first time?
Well, going to the market is part of one of the cultural activities, but during the orientation, the very first day, right? Students arrive the very first day, and the second day, the official first day in the country, right? It's always very exhausting, right? I think physically and emotionally, because the students have been traveling all day the day before, right? And sometimes jet lag and the culture shock and the anxiety and the fear, right? It's part of that. So I always see these very curious faces. I always tell them it's amazing. In exactly a week after orientation day, they're going to be best friends. They're going to be the closest people in this world, right? Because they're together on this. So I love that very first day during the AIFS orientation that we have in the morning, right? I explain the students all about the culture in Costa Rica, a little bit about the country, culture shock, health and safety, academics, and we go through the itinerary of the excursions and the cultural activities and all that. We provide a lot of information, of course. I always tell the students, I know that they're going to ask me again some of these things, right? Because it's just too much information. And then we have a welcome lunch, a group welcome lunch. And then after lunch, we go for a walk around the city. We go on a San Jose city tour to see the most important landmarks of the city and to start recognizing it for the very first time, right? And then after a 2-hour walk, we go back to the homestays and where students are going to have dinner for the first time with the family.
Is that dinner, that orientation dinner, is that all the host moms are there together, or is it each individual student is going to their individual homestay?
Well, we have together a welcome lunch, only the AIFS students, and then when they go back home, they are going to have a dinner with each of their families.
Nice. Okay.
The second day of the orientation, the students are going to have the orientation at 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦, the school. And then after that, they come to the office, right? And we are going to take a public bus to a mall because they have never seen a mall. Not kidding. But we are going to take
the public transportation, so it gives them a good idea of what that looks like.
So we are going to take the public bus. So I like to teach our students what is the process, what is the procedure to take a public bus here in Costa Rica, what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do, right? And then we take the public bus all together. We go to the mall, but we go to the mall to visit the bank. So our students can exchange money if they need to, or withdraw money from the ATMs to do all that. We also go to a telephone store. Sometimes the students want to get a SIM card or a chip for their own phones, or they want to get a Costa Rican phone, right, with a Costa Rican number to ease things or ease communication while they're abroad. Sure. And of course, then we get an ice cream.
Orientation sounds like super fun, not draining at all. Get to experience, get to go to a mall. Come on, that's all good stuff. We talked a little bit about cultural opportunities, but if you want to just kind of list through those again, what they might look like throughout the semester, or some of those shorter term programs such as summer, what are some of those cultural activities that students will be participating in? Or excursions too. That was the other word.
The cultural activities, we are going to have cultural activities 2 times a month or 3 times a month. I like to program or to organize activities, cultural activities, where all of our students are able to participate because, we're students and we're on a budget, right? So sometimes if we ask for extra fees, sometimes the students will say, no, I cannot go. So I always organize activities where all the students will participate and it doesn't cost anything extra, right? So let's say that we go sometimes to San Jose downtown, we go to the Gold Museum, the Jade Museum, we take them to the Central Market. And the Central Market is one of my favorite places, actually, because there is an ice cream store. I love ice cream, Jackie.
I'm the same way. I don't discriminate with flavors. I'm same.
But in the Central Market, which is one of my favorite places, there's this ice cream store that they have been there since 1901. And since then, they have had only one flavor.
What's the flavor?
One flavor of ice cream, right? So how do you survive for over 100 years in an ice cream store with just one flavor? How good can it be, right?
It has to be really good. Is it just vanilla or is it something else?
It's called 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦, and it is a combination of different spices. It has vanilla, it has hibiscus, some others.
Yeah.
So when you come here, I'll take you there and we will give you the full explanation.
We will. I'm going to marking it on my calendar right now. Very cool.
Yes.
Excellent.
Then, we go to different places in San Jose downtown. We also visit one of my favorite places too is to visit the 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗓 indigenous community. They are in a region called 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦. They are the indigenous community that is closest to San Jose. So we go, we visit the shaman who's called Choto, or his son. I call him Shaman Jr., Nelson. They give us a tour of the facilities they have, an explanation of their history and culture of indigenous people here in Costa Rica, about the different rituals, right? And the different beliefs. Students get to ask questions, and then at the end of the visit, if a student wants to, they provide us a cleansing ritual. So if a student doesn't want to participate, that's absolutely fine. But all the students are invited to participate of the cleansing ritual. And in the office, we have the cooking class with a Costa Rican lady. She's an excellent cook. She's so good that even her daughter became a chef at the Cordon Bleu in Paris.
There you
yes.
go.
So Miss Norma is the person that comes into the office and do a very hands-on cooking class. We make tortillas, we make ceviche de mango, empanadas de queso, de frijol. There's so many things that we can do there. And of course, little cajetas or sweet things at the end, so students can bring. Yes,
and
it's
outside
nice.
of the organized cooking class, I would probably bet my right arm that you're going to learn how to cook in your homestays too with your host mothers if they're constantly feeding you all these traditional foods. Very cool. And then in terms of the traveling excursions, what are some of those that are offered through the program?
Well, for the first weekend of the program, well, after the arrival, we go to Manuel Antonio National Park. Manuel Antonio National Park is in the Central Pacific coast. It's gorgeous. It's one of the most visited national parks, but it has a reason because it has forest. You can see the forest. It has the beach. You can hike in these mountains and the forest. And every time you go there, because with nature, you never know. People will tell, well, we might not see an animal. But when we go to Manuel Antonio, every single time we're going to see a sloths. We see monkeys playing around us, right? We see iguanas. Once I see a sea turtle, we see deer. It's amazing. I think the fauna and flora there is just amazing. It's a great place for our students to get to know each other because it's our first weekend away, right? And then we also include day trip to 𝗟𝗧𝗦𝗓 volcano. 𝗟𝗧𝗦𝗓 volcano has been very active lately. Actually, it was closed for over a year because of its activity. They build shelters and all that, right? So it's an active volcano, and then that same day we visit, we go on a coffee tour. You know, coffee is major here in Costa Rica, of course. And then we visit some cultural and historical towns of 𝗟𝗘𝗧 and 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦, which are also of artisans. And then we also go, and then the weekend after, the third weekend, let's say, we go to Arenal volcano and Monteverde. And in Arenal, we visit the hot springs. It's gorgeous there. Students like it a lot. It's like a water park, but with hot springs. We have, and then we visit the Arenal waterfall. And in Monteverde, we go and do zip line through the cloud forest.
So again, like you have your cooking classes, you have your outdoor activities, you get to see like natural landmarks. I mean, there's a little bit of everything in these excursions, and some of which are included in the inclusive program.
Yes.
So yeah.
We also have an optional excursion to 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦𝗓. I really like that. I really like that one because it's only an overnight. It's just one night, but we get there, and as soon as we get there, we are going to have a chocolate tour. It's a hike through the forest, and we get to the place, we have the chocolate tour, then we go back to the hotel, we have dinner, which is included, and after dinner, we go in the jungle for a night hike to see all these nocturnal animals and luminescent plants even, right?
Yes.
Shine in the dark. It's amazing. And then the morning after, we go whitewater rafting.
I can't imagine very many students wanting to turn down that excursion. I do have what we call a lightning round. So I'm just going to give you a word, and in response, you give me the first word that comes to mind in association with your culture, with Costa Rica in general, maybe something that's relative to the program. So first one, my favorite, food.
Gallo pinto.
Yes, guys, please mark that down. That is the staple. Transportation.
Bus.
Bus. Guys, that one's an easy one to learn, right? Perfect. Locals.
Pura vida.
Pura vida, yeah. Super friendly locals, Karla, you would say?
Yes, I think the Costa Rican culture, have to say about the Costa Rican culture. Costa Ricans are shy at first, like a little bit shy, right? Especially with foreigners, because we're also shy with each other. Right. But as soon as you break the ice, I always tell the students, if you want to start getting to know Costa Rican people, just to start talking.
Yes.
As soon as we notice that you are actually a nice person, right? We won't shut up. We will just go and go and go and go. Costa Ricans are well known for being hospitable, right? We're very warm in general.
Language.
Mae.
What is
𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗓 is a Costa Rican word.
what does that mean?
𝗦𝗢 is it's like saying dude.
Dude. Awesome. I like that. So learn it. Very good. Landmarks.
San José downtown, the museum. Directions. Because in Costa Rica, we don't have addresses. We use directions. So landmarks are major for us, right? Since we don't have, well, street and avenues, in some cases, they might have numbers or names, but we always use landmarks for directions. So, for example, the office, the area in the office, the landmark is Parque Los Mangos, Mango Park.
Nice.
So that's the landmark for us. And then our office is from Parque Los Mangos, 50 meters north.
If someone is like a little bit directionally challenged, right? They're not the best with directions. Costa Rica might be a really good program for them, because you just would have to get on a bus and navigate by whatever landmark is closest to wherever you're going. Correct?
Yes.
That would be my kind of city. Very cool. Architecture.
European.
Oh,
Costa Rican. Yes, Costa Rican history. Mm-hmm. The Costa Rican founders basically were fans of Europe. Okay. Right? And education back then, centuries ago, was happening only in Europe. So educated people who got to go to college back then, usually went to Europe. So all our founders brought all these architecture from Europe. So when you go to San Jose, you are going to see a lot of European influence everywhere.
Yeah, you can have your own little Euro trip in Costa Rica. Very cool.
Well, actually, the Costa Rican flag was inspired by the Francis flag. Yes.
Cool. And then this question, it's probably my favorite. We're constantly learning from our resident director staff, not just about cultural of where they're from, but just everything that you guys teach and unpack for the students, during the program and thereafter once they're repatriated. But can you tell us, what is the most valuable lesson that you as an RD have learned from the students?
What the students have taught me for the past 20 years is that you can actually educate with love. I think that sometimes, like you see people getting desperate with little children or with the students, because sometimes you have to repeat. Yes, of course we have to repeat. We provide a lot of information. Sometimes you have to explain in many different ways, because the first time you explain it, sometimes you might tell them, I don't understand. But sometimes people tend to repeat the same phrase. Right. That is not an explanation. That is just a repetition. So I think that in these past 20 years, students have taught me that there's no need of violence or intolerance or to get angry or anything like that. You just have to find your way to educate through love, to find different ways and understanding of all these students, right? Because even though we're all equal, we're not the same. Right? So we need to learn we all have different learning needs, and we have to learn in different ways.
So beautifully said. Yeah, because it's not just the students learning the language and trying to navigate that. It's cultural things. It's you navigating their personalities and vice versa. And there's really not a space to like get angry over those things, or there's not like a reason, right? Like we can just be patient and learn from each other. That's what cultural exchange is. That's what these students are in for when they're going on these programs. So beautifully said, Karla.
Thank you.
Any questions that you guys, the students, have for Karla about Costa Rica or any of the semester terms that we offer, we will get those to her promptly. So if you do have any questions direct for Karla, she can answer those. But Karla, we thank you for being with us today. Thanks for spending the time and teaching us all about the program and what Costa Rica has to offer. Yes. We will see you soon, but until then, pura vida.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Pura vida.
All right, see you soon.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.